Hello and welcome. It is the 11th of August 2017. Let's take a look at the cryptocurrency markets. Everything within this video is based on how I'm looking at the market, my ideas. What you do within any type of trades is upon your own risk and own reward. So then let's get started. What's interesting about this weekly time frame for Bitcoin is this is the most aggressive and best that it has left this rising 18 average band. When this is this time, there was this one. Yeah, we'll count that. Leaving it here, and leaving it there. And heck, why not even count that one? Of course, the one back at the start of this in 2013 is a different story. That's one went way up to the upside. The old school volatility, for the most part, you can throw away. However, during situations within major financial panics that are happening within the real world, there could be some interesting weeks. Let's just see how that plays through. Let's look at this on the daily term time frame. And it keeps moving well towards the upside since the break of this resistance. The up move, a little bit of consolidation in here, basically grinding a little bit higher for a few days and then breaking the resistance today. Major move to the upside, or another good break of resistance, decent sized green candle, which appeared. Let's shorten out the time frame one final time. And this is the 2 hour and since the break of the more shorter term key resistance level, we can see that it's broke really nicely to the point or the extent where it has not even touched the 18 average of highs, very low here. So when you're in market conditions, when you are having decent size green candles above such, that is very much buyers in huge control. The key 2900 to 3000 area, well, it's no longer short-term support anymore, but it's still more intermediate or long-term levels. Short-term, we're going to be looking here towards the 34.5 handle, down towards the 33 as any type of key areas. Now, I just finished watching a Cliff High on SGT report talking about predictions, or stating that Bitcoin relatively soon, a price move well over 6,000, close to 7,000, which would then have a decent sharp correction, which would be the final one until the 13,000 levels in the February time frame. So I quickly drew up an idea of what it may look like, a move to, say, an area of around 7,000 and a sharp correction. I'm going to bring it up on the screen now. I didn't put dates on, but it would take us to November the 17th, and what is nothing more than something that I drew up. We're basically standing around this time frame here, so everything from this point on is one of the most realistic ways I could interpret how Cliff High was stating within a report of this nature. And as well, I read his first 3 reports in which he wrote. I didn't get his last one, so I have no knowledge to what's written within it. But it does seem as if as we move into September that it's going to be a very bullish for the crypto space. And well, this would be the month of September. And well, a situation in which maybe we can have a move up to this high, which would, of course, follow the price decline. He mentioned 30%. I made this closer to 50% because I just think there'd be a more decent size move, but something that could happen quick. And I think there's a good chance that a lot of them are going to have some very fast rebounds. And when I made this example after this low, I gave it the quick bounce to this point. Situation in which, okay, after many of these decent falls, you're always going to have at least this little move like this. That's a very common indicator. Then I included the little failed move, fast move, and then a situation where you go from like 4,100 to like over 6,000 in like 3 days. So there's like a 50% type of move, which is within the Bitcoin, very realistic. Now let's turn our attention to some other alternate coins. Let's first take a look at Funfair, code FUN, and we're looking at the 4-hour time frame, which is pretty much mostly all the data that's available, so there's nothing else outside of this, which early on had this resistance test in around the 800 Satoshi mark. Extended correctionary moves, and the volatility and movement over the last little while has gone crazy. And you want to short out, see what's going on here, because oftentimes you see this going to be a lot of good day trading opportunities, albeit not the greatest of volatility, but still good compared to others with a high of around 12 down to about 900. That's about 20-30%. I mean, that's really good. You can get better at times, like ABY, as I mentioned before, but nonetheless, let's shorten this out. This is the 15-minute time frame, and since this high at 1200, you have this decent fall. Now with the lower high, the low has been holding so far, so a lot of very neutral, choppy kind of action, which is forming within this. And at this stage in here, you're looking, if you're going to play the neutrality, to have buy orders in the lower area, looking to sell higher, of course. The more often you test a key area, the more likely it is you take it out. So this area was resisted. It has been supported in here. So if another test in here does fail, you can expect a decent sized move. But overall, this is just part of the correctionary move from those large gains that we're seeing on this on the short term. And if you're waiting, oh my goodness, this is up so much, I need for it to have some sort of correction. Well, at least at this stage, price action is down about 300 basis points, and it's had a little bit. Yes, prices could get cheaper, but I'd rather be a buyer here than I would right in here, basically. Next up is BTS, or that of BitShares, which is extremely volatile to say the least. This high tested in here at around 16,000, now down to about 5,000. So it's lost 2/3 of its value after this straight decline. Attempt to revert the rally or revert the trend to be that of a rally hasn't succeeded, but it also hasn't broken down anywhere near this point. We can see that within the last couple of days that we've had some interesting moves to the upside. So this is something I want to see via shortening it out, and that's what I'm going to do. And this is the 15-minute time frame. So since the rally on the 10th or yesterday morning, it's been just doing a whole bunch of choppiness back and forth. We can see short term how key this 48 handle is. Some resistance area fields, an attempt to break it out here. But this situation is like, okay, I'm ready to break out. This is a spot where you're like, okay, let's go long. We're breaking resistance. Oftentimes from a failed move comes a fast move to the downside. It's already made that fast move down, and it's almost impossible for me to do anything but just pass on something like this. Let's look at XCL, or Elastic, which is next on the 3-hour time frame. Not much data. This is pretty much all I can show. So far, this has been making the conventional pattern of higher highs and higher lows. It looks like it might be in a little bit of need of further correction, either going sideways or a little bit of a price. And I'm stating that because after all of these nice moves in here, it barely did make this higher high, falling back to within this previous range. So that doesn't necessarily mean it will, but definitely a possibility this thing can keep going sideways between the 1824, maybe even test some of these lower areas here and thus make a significant higher low towards these previous levels. And with also that being stated, I look at these movements and I'm seeing on the on the 3-hour time frame anyway, how you have a lot of these up and down lines, or just the price actions just chopping back and forth. I can tell something again I'm going to want to shorten the time frame for. And this is the 5-minute time frame. And when I see a chart like this may look like a mess to a lot of people, but I see, I'm not going to say an easy 3% consistently, with even okay possibilities at working towards getting 10-15%. But if you stick buy orders in at around 19.4 or so, And then stick your sell orders in at around 22. That's a difference of 800 points on that. So that's about 4%. And then you got about a 0.5% or so on rake on the buy or sell. But these are the things that I'm looking at. I'm also looking at the decent size moves where I can see sell orders in the 21 as possibilities, sell orders up here as well. And these are just, of course, short-term situations. Any type of deeper pullback, so far this 19 handle has worked out well. And even if you're looking for like just mathematics on the play, if you buy at 19, you're looking to sell at say 20. That's a difference of, well, now 5%. Is it worth the risk of that falling through from here? You know what? Probably not for me. But I like to see if there's any type of movements that keep on chopping up and down. How easy is it to get? Is it worth it on the volatility? The things that I ask myself. In here, not really. Let's move on to Stratus, which is doing pretty decent compared to a lot of the other cryptos. This thing has been making a few higher lows on the daily term time frame. Resistance established in the mid to late parts of July. It has been retested. That on Thursday, it was retested in here, and it's in the sideways mode recently within the rising 18 average so far. It's just like the first chart I showed, maybe needs a little bit of more time sideways. And maybe it needs to just get to that higher low in here. That might need to be a little deeper. What I can see is that we're retesting this on the short-term time frame. So definitely a little bit of a neutral bias towards this. Breaking out above here, definitely a decent signal that this thing may be ready to go to at least test its previous high. Let's shorten it out a little bit. And this is the 4-hour time frame. Here's the little bit of resistance up along this area around 24. A noticeable break, but it fell right back down to the trading range. Has now since traded down to the lower end of what's been an August support level, and at around, well, we'll say this 200 or so, handle a little above it. And if this doesn't hold, then there's this area here, which would definitely make an area that could be a higher, well, definitely would be a higher low in here. But what I like about the mathematics within this, or just looking at it normally, this would be a decent leg on what a normal break would be. It would also be noticeably higher than here. So something like this, just by looking at a chart blindly, even just for a quick trade, I'm actually relatively confident that if I put even a buy order here, the chances that it comes here before it comes back down here is pretty good. And even still, I could buy it here, it could keep going down, and it can still go back up, and it can be a winning trade as well. But I do like to see situations like that because I do recognize that this is a clear range, and if it's going to break down, it's probably got a good chance of matching up within this previous resistance level. And again, breaking through this, like I was mentioning on the daily, would be a very bullish setup if it's unable to do that. But right now, of course, choppy action, and then short term, it's looking a little bearish. Let's look next at 10x, code PAY. And we're in a situation in here that has had, this is the 2-hour time frame, and this is most of the chart that I got. It broke past this resistance here, and it broke it at around 65. It has done better than double within this time frame after it had this move where before then it did better than double. Now notice after this move, it had a very decent correction, so it has came back to this band, but it's still at a very overextended level. The areas in which it has come from, we have this little area here as well, this point in here. But like I state so many times, just because a correction is needed, if a key resistance point is broken, then watch out. And here's a situation, this level's broken, decent size move. It resists here, comes back down, And then from this break, large size move. So we can now tell that this area here, at least between 14 and 15, is already a significant point. But well overextended at some point. It might be now, I don't know, it might be later. Well, it's going to be one of the two. It's going to be in need of some sort of correction, but very much a nice, beautiful uptrend. Next up is Sia Coin, and unfortunately, TradingView does not do very well in the logarithmic chart with data below 100. However, I don't need that. I do see in this situation that it's a very bearish setup that has the potential for further decline. I would be very surprised if it doesn't. With that being said, the reason why is because on a break of this support level, it looks very bearish. You'd expect a decent leg lower. This market did come from the 170 level, so that would give you an indication of where it would have a decent chance of going to. It's also just eyeballing it. That's a decent leg lower as well. Of course, if it doesn't do that, then this is a significant support level that it's breaking, so it could do the failed move fast move, but right now this thing has been in a downtrend since this high, falling from 800 and change down to 250 up here. This is a rally attempt, and when you have a rally like this and you see the red candle and then follow through like that, that's just not a bullish sign whatsoever. It's actually the quite opposite. And then this movement here, definitely looking relatively weak. We'll see what happens if there is any rallies up to this key area, because short term we can see 290 is a key level. And let's move on to the next code.